Hello, welcome, Miss Brenda. We are getting started. We're going to give people about 5 minutes to join the room before we get started, okay?
It's muted. Okay, Farrah, I'm sorry, I had to unmute.
Okay. Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We're just going to give people about 5 more minutes to join in the room. So I'll just be waiting for people to join in. Okay, then we'll get started.
Okay.
Hey, welcome, Katie. We're going to get started. We were just giving people time to hop into the room. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's you and Miss Brenda. I'll be going live in a few moments on Facebook. So thank you for cutting your video on. I appreciate you. I'm about to stream. Miss Brenda, if you're willing to, you can come on camera too.
Okay.
Hey, Farrah, I'm in here cooking breakfast for the brands. So I don't know if y'all want to see me in here cooking.
Yeah, we do. It doesn't matter.
I stuck it in. We already done.
We already done. Crank it in. I'll let you do it next time, okay?
I
Let him crack one. Just
that also cracked one.
And so, Miss Brenda, you can go on mute until you're talking, okay?
oh, I'm sorry.
Put your video on. All right, we're live now. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Put your video on. All right, so
We're live now.
welcome everybody to the book club week 2. We had such a great session last week. What do you all think? Did you learn something? What were your takeaways from last week?
Yeah, I think it just got me really excited for what's to come, and it feels, I think in the past it's just always felt very overwhelming, like, you know, owning real estate, like it feels so much bigger than me, but I think you just kind of like really made it feel doable and practical. So I've been excited all week.
Yeah, yay. You know what? I want people to know that anybody can invest in real estate. It feels exclusive, it feels elite, it feels like it's reserved only for people who are of a certain net worth, or people who have a college degree, or people who wear suits, or it feels like only certain people are allowed to do it. But by the time we're done with this, I want you to feel ready. I want you to feel that you are just as equipped as someone sitting in a corporate commercial real estate office with a suit on, and you are in your sweatsuit in the streets with a vision just as powerful, just as able as they are. So for those who are just hopping on, I'm on Instagram and I'm also on Facebook. I wanted just to let you all know we are doing a book club for We Must Own. We are doing a book club. That's what we're doing. That's what we're here for today. We're doing this book club. And if you would like to learn about investing in real estate, that's what we're talking about. So you can get the book at wemustown.com. We are on week 2. It's not too late to grab the book. Okay. Miss Brenda, what were your takeaways? And if y'all have burning questions or anything in either of the chats, just go ahead and write your questions and I will try to address those, because today we are talking about investment strategies. So Miss Brenda, from last week, I know you're cooking, you got your grandkids, but do you have any takeaways that you would like to share from just our introduction to ownership last week?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, pretty much I took away that kind of what you just said. Anybody can invest in real estate, regardless of suit and tie or jeans and a sweatshirt or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of hope. It gave me a lot. I was excited after getting off of there, and I called several people up and I was telling them about it and everything.
Yeah.
So I guess basically what I took away was there's a possibility for me. Even if I may not have a big bank account like the next person does, but there's still a way to get around all of that.
Yes. Wow. So for those of you all that are listening, Miss Brenda, she's speaking. She's on Zoom. If you want to hop into the Zoom, it's on Facebook. Miss Brenda is visually impaired. Miss Brenda is one of the first people to invest in Kingdom Legacy Company. And she was able to see the vision of what I was explaining to her without even being able to see any of the documents or the drawings, the renderings, any of the financials. She was able to see the vision just by simply me speaking it to her and her talking with her son. And she made a commitment to invest. And last week she said that she didn't want to allow her disability, or what's known as a disability, to limit her in any way. And she wanted to show other people that were visually impaired or with other disabilities that they can invest and they don't have to have a financial limitation, which is their disability check. They can have unlimited wealth regardless of their disability. So I think we were all pretty inspired by her. I know I was. What about you, Katie? Yeah, we were just all inspired because that's what Reformation looks like. So let's get into the topic of today, which is investment strategies. Did you all get a chance to read investment strategies? It was a lot. I'm sure that investment strategies in this book is at least 25% of the book, maybe 50% of the book is just a review of all the different ways that you can invest in real estate. So Katie, Miss Brenda, anybody else, did you all get an opportunity to review the investment strategies in the book? And if so, what's your strategy, or what are your questions?
I didn't know. My mom ordered 2 books and only one came in. So last week we shared, but this week we weren't able to. So I haven't gotten into it yet, but I do know that that's definitely an area I'm gonna have to keep reviewing and keep going back to, just because I feel like I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so people say they want to invest, but for most people, they're limited in what that means. You don't know the range of possibilities. You don't know, oh my gosh, I want to buy an apartment building. Is that where I start? Maybe that's not the starting place, because there's so many different methods and ways to enter into this investing, right? So in this book, I'll just go through some of the strategies. We have active strategies, we have moderate strategies, and we have passive strategies. So if you don't plan to be a full-time investor like myself, you probably would want to go with a moderate or passive strategy. So what I want people to know is that you don't need to quit your full-time job to be a real estate investor, right? You can do it. You can have 2 other jobs and be a real estate investor. Another thing I want you to know is you don't have to have a job to be a real estate investor. You don't have to have income to be a real estate investor. You could be a college student. You can be retired. So I want to break those mental limitations that people have about what you can and cannot do, and what you have to have and what you don't have to have. So a vast majority of people that invest in real estate will not be executing an active investment strategy. The active investment strategies would be like flippers. We love watching HGTV. We'll spend all our free time watching a fix and flip show, but we would not actually want to do that in real life, because that means we would be making a full-time commitment to real estate investing, because I would never encourage anybody to passively fix and flip properties. Someone on Instagram said, people are hesitant to own because of bad credit. How can you encourage them against this misinformation? Oh yeah, so we dive into that. I have a whole section about positioning yourself financially to invest. And in that section, I think it's section 3 of the book, which we'll talk about not next week, but probably toward the end of October, I'll talk about credit. I'll talk about assets. I'll talk about debt, and I'll talk about income. But just in general, none of those things can limit you or prohibit you from investing in real estate. Do they prohibit people? Yes. Have they? Yes, absolutely. But none of those things can stop someone if you are determined. So let's get back to investment strategies. I have a full course that I'll be releasing where I will go into every single detail of this entire book, like with a fine-tooth comb. And that's not what this is today. Today is just for me to be here to answer questions. and to help you understand the content a little better. So I'll just do a high level review. So active investment strategies include the BRR strategy, the buy, rehab, and rent strategy. And then you have the option to refinance your property. So this is for people that want to hold their property for more than a year. You're not a flipper. Let's say you just want a rental property. Let's say you find it could be any type of property. It could be a tiny house. It could be a commercial space, something that's distressed that needs to be rehabilitated or improved, and it can be leased. That's the first strategy. Most investors, I would say, are probably in that buy and hold investment space. Whether they buy and hold land or they buy and hold something that needs to be improved, or they buy and hold a piece of property that's already considered turnkey, which means you don't have to do any work to it. It's ready to go from the day you buy it. The next investment strategy would be a short-term rental strategy. This has become so popular in the last, few years, right? With the vacation rentals, with the Airbnbs of the world, it has become an income stream. I remember when one of my great friends, he's a world traveling chef. He used Airbnb for the cultural experience. How many of you all know that Airbnb was originally a bed and breakfast where you would go travel to a different country, you would stay in someone's home, and they would cook for you, and they would give you a bed, and they would allow you to immerse yourself into a cultural experience in their country. And that is what he used to do. He would travel and use Airbnb for what its original intention was for, to give people these cultural experiences that are better than going to stay in a hotel. You get to be around the family, you get to learn the language, you get to do what the local people do when they go to visit a space, right? Well, people realized that Airbnb that's the lick. That's how you make money. And so Airbnb shortly became sort of like a hoteling space where anybody with a bed could use that bed to generate income. And so that has grown. We have seen many other travel sites pop up like Airbnb that allow people to generate income from their space. So that's your next active investment strategy, would be a short-term rental. Now, if that's something that you want to do, you would really need to research, because lots of cities and local HOAs are starting to regulate those sort of short-term rentals, because what they're seeing is that homeowners are starting to have party goers as their neighbors. So whereas you might have small children, they need to be in bed by 9, your next door neighbor is throwing a party next door because it's being rented out on a short-term rental site. There's also been some other downsides that I go into in the book. The next strategy is the fix and flip strategy, which we all love a good fix and flip TV show. We love it. Why? Because we love to see something ugly become beautiful. We love to see that behind the scenes process of, it's really sort of like an art form. We love to see the design work. We want to see the ideas. How do you take this older home and restore it? Or how do you, work through the different challenges that are unveiled as you pull back the layers of a home and you see the history of the things that have occurred to that property over the ages. It's fun to watch. But for someone who has done that type of work, I would just say that's an active investment strategy. If you want to participate in real estate and you want to be a flipper because you've heard you can make $1 million in a year, and you can take a little bit of money and you can buy this old house and you can remodel it for $30,000, and then you can turn around and resell it, you can make $200,000 cash, you're about to be in for the surprise of a lifetime. Fix and flipping, it is fun if you enjoy that restorative work. However, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to know what you're doing. Is this what you wanted to do? Is this what you want to do, Katie?
I don't know. I'm like I'm not gonna lie, I'm not good at decorating on a budget.
Okay.
And so I don't know if that, I think I could do it for sure. But like you said, you have to be, I think, super active and in all the details, and it like making sure that cost of materials stays low enough that you're making the investment, that you're going to make money at the end. So I think I need to really, I think, pray about it and just see like what the best direction is.
Yeah. So I don't want anything I'm saying to deter you. Plenty of people fix and flip properties and they make tons of money. Plenty of people fix and flip properties and they lose tons of money. So it's going to come down to management. And that is something I talk about in the beginning of section 2 is you will profit to the degree that you manage your investment. I've seen people lose significant amounts of money because they turn the management over to someone that they expected to do the work for them. And nobody's going to manage your project like you. So even if you hire a general contractor, you still have to manage them. I can tell you that general contractors are difficult to find, ones that have integrity, ones that are honest and that will not try to become greedy, you can trust them to do what they say they're going to do and to be on time. But when you find someone like that, you still have to manage them, manage their expectations, manage the budget, manage the material prices. So that's why I say it's an active investment strategy that for if that's something that you all want to do, you want to fix and flip properties, I would say start building your team now. Even before you found your property, find your general contractor, find your vendors where you're going to purchase your cabinetry and your flooring and your carpets, and go ahead and find your architect that's going to help you redesign your space. So you have everything in place so that when you find that property, you have a trusted team to help you execute it. Because the key with the fix and flip strategy is timing. You have about 6 months to buy that property, renovate it. Most times you're going to have some major structural work to do in it, like foundation work, roof replacements, things that take time. And you will have to finish the interior design, remodel, possibly stage it to sell, market it, and close on the transaction within 6 months' time. Some lenders will give you up to a year. However, the longer you hold the property, the more it's cutting into your profit margin. So fix and flippers, they want to flip it like a pancake. It's so, takes a pancake about a good 2 minutes to cook and then you flip it. So anything that takes too long eats into your profit margin. That's just a little bit of details about the fix and flip strategy. I go into great detail in my course that I'll be releasing soon. So the next strategy is new construction. All over, everywhere where you see a crane, you see construction workers, hard hats, dirt being leveled, foundations being laid. We see it, but it's not until you start to pay attention to real estate. It's not until you start to read this book and books like this do your eyes become open to all of the construction that is happening all around you. One thing I can say gave me peace during the pandemic, I don't know if you all noticed it, construction never stopped. So even in the beginning of the pandemic, when they were telling us that the world was ending, are we ever going to live again? Are we ever going to go anywhere again? Are we ever going to be able to go to the mall again, go to church again? I don't know if you all can go back to like around March 2020, where we were just like, is this the end of the world? And then I would go outside and they're still building highways. I'm like, how are the construction workers essential workers? How are they still allowed to go stand next to each other and build buildings? And you all are saying that the world is ending. So I knew that something was up, because I'm like, if we're still building high rises, but you're telling me that we're not going anywhere, if we're still building malls, but we can't go to the mall, that was an indication. I'm saying that to say everywhere you look, there is construction happening all the time. So that is an area of investment that is a potential for you as well. You don't have to buy a distressed property. You don't have to buy an existing home or building. You can build it from the ground up. This is a great strategy for business owners. So many business owners are leasing their spaces. So we see barbers, hairstylists, insurance agencies, all types of businesses, restaurants. And if you go and you ask those people the rent that they are paying for their spaces, they've gotten so used to paying those line items in their P&L that, and it's the norm. They may say, I'm paying 5,000 a month, 6,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 30,000 a month for their space, particularly if you were in the inner city. Right here in Deep Ellum, near where I live, you can probably rent a 1,300 square foot space for about 6,000 a month, plus utilities, insurance, maintenance. So it's easy just to have a small storefront. You're spending 10,000 a month on rent. Well, you could go and build a multi-million-dollar building and your mortgage would be less than that, but they don't know that because they're not educated about real estate. So this is what I want you to think. Anytime you're renting property, the amount that you are paying in rent is generally going to be more than the amount you would pay if you own the property. The difference between that is the profit. And that's why that developer or that owner is in the business of renting that space, because they're in the business of becoming profitable. So they might go and take, we've heard of work suites. I'm currently renting a work suite while my office space is being built. The work suite has about 100 suites in it. They rent each of those suites that have 100 square feet. So just about the size of a closet, maybe a small bedroom. They rent those suites for $1,500 a month and anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 a month. So they're making anywhere. I'm doing everybody's math when I'm walking in their buildings. They're making anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 a month in income. One building divided into 100 spaces, rented at $1,000 a month. You can do the math. This is how wealth is built in America. So you as a business owner, you go looking for space. You say, hey, I need, co-working space. I need a professional place where I can meet with my clients, or I need somewhere to cook. I need somewhere to do hair, whatever it is that you need your space for. And you don't realize that you are lining someone else's pockets based on their business model, when you could simply go into new construction. You could build your own building and you could operate your space for maybe half of what you're paying in rent. And so I encourage business owners, not just business owners, that's just one area of new construction. You could go and buy a piece of commercial land. You could hire an architect to design it, and you could go take a loan out, and you can typically get about 1 year of interest only on that loan. You may even be able to negotiate 6 months of no payments at all. I currently got approved for a loan with 2 years, no payment at all. So you can go get a commercial loan that will give you time to build that property, to get it up and running with your business. You're already paying rent, so you've got the money to put toward the mortgage. And then you could even divide out some extra spaces in that building that you could rent to others. So now you're becoming an investor while you're running your own business. That's one idea. New construction is also with housing. You could become a developer where you go and build an entire community. One of my friends is doing that now. He bought an 11-acre plot of land in South Oak Cliff. He's going to divide it into 50 lots. All of it was funded by investors who are just out here with money, like, hey, we have money, we want to invest in something, give us something to invest in. So that was funded by the investors, and the bank's giving him the rest of the money. These things I talk about in my book, the options are unlimited. Also, if you don't want to do large developments, you could just do one house at a time. You can go buy a lot of land depending on where you're building at. A lot of land in South Dallas is about anywhere from $30,000 to $70,000. You can do a loan and put 15% down, then take that land, go to the bank and finance it to do a construction loan. And you got a house built that you can either convert into a rental property or into you can sell it, right? So these are just, I mean, there's so many strategies. That's why it takes up about half of my book with just investment strategies and ideas that I'm giving people to think about what do you want to do? What do you want? Because I could tell you what I would do, but you might say, I'm not really interested in that. I'd rather do something in commercial. I'd rather do a apartment building. I'd rather do a short-term rental. I'd rather do own land. There's so many possibilities, people. So the next strategy is new construction strategy. And we talked about new construction, it's land development strategy. I talked about that a little bit. Does anybody have questions? Because I'm just going. I mean, I could talk about this for ages. Miss Brenda, do you have any questions, Katie?
This is so good. I'm listening to every word, edge of my
Anybody
seat.
on Instagram have any questions? Let me know, chime in.
Farrah, when you said how much percent would you have to put down when you was talking about the
Miss Brenda,
land?
are you talking? Hold on, let me see if I can hear you. I think I had you on mute.
Okay, am I muted?
I can hear you now.
Okay, when you was talking about the land, how much percent did you say you have to put down?
There's some lenders that'll do a loan with 15% down on the land. Here's a strategy. If you don't want to put money down on the land, I love this strategy. Partner with the landowner. So you can find someone that has the ideal piece of land, and they may say, I don't really want to sell my land for 30,000. I want to sell it for 100,000. But the land currently in its undeveloped state is not worth 100,000. So they might say, okay, I'll go into a partnership with you and allow you to build your structure. And when your structure is built and sold, then you pay me my 100,000. So you go into a partnership that allows them to get what they want out of their land and allows you to get the location that you want without spending any money. Another example could be, you just have a large landowner that they don't want to put any money into their project, but they might own acreage. And so they go into a partnership with a developer like yourself, and you just come to them and you approach them and say, hey, I'll develop all 11 acres if you would come in and be my partner. And so they get to participate in the residual income from that use of that property without having to put in any of their own money in. But the value of their land becomes your equity. So you don't have to put any money in either. Isn't this genius, y'all?
Yes.
If people could just come together and unify, so much progress can happen in this world. I'll give you a great example. I told you all last week that one of my friends came to me and said they want to buy 10 houses, 20 houses, but this year, by the end of this year, they want to own 2 houses. But the one catch is they don't have any money. So they were just distraught. They're just like, I have this burning desire in me to own property, but I don't have any money right now. So I said, okay, that's not a problem, because the Bible says you will buy houses without money. You will buy bread without money. So it's always a way to do something that you want to do if you have the willpower and the wisdom to do it. So I sat down and I said, okay, well, here's your strategy. What house do you want? They already knew the house that they wanted because it was their next door neighbor's house. The next door neighbor had been working on the property for months, maybe even years, and not able to fully finish the renovation. So I encouraged them to go to the next door neighbor and ask them to become their partner. And to say, if you let me partner with you on this house, I will help you finance the cost of the renovations. I'll help you manage it. I'll do the work, but I'll share in the profits of that home when it's rented out. Well, surprisingly, I got invited to a meeting last week to sit at the kitchen table between these 2 neighbors. And as I drank coffee with them, we strategized a contract for them to come together and do exactly what was proposed. The neighbor that was currently struggling to finish the remodel was so relieved that the next door neighbor was willing to come in and help because he was stuck. And the neighbor who had this burning desire in his heart to own property but didn't have any money was so excited to be able to come in and partner and leverage their good credit to go and get a construction loan to finish the remodel. And then they strategized on how they would use the property to generate income, and then they would split the income. Oh, and by the way, the next door neighbor owned 5 other properties and wanted to do the same strategy with all 5 properties. So now my friend, who had this burning desire to own 2 properties by the end of the year, was given an opportunity to own 6 properties by the end of the year. So, well, I just want to encourage you all that this is real. This is real. There's always a way. There's always a method. There's always a strategy. Don't limit yourself based on what you have or what you don't have. Just begin to dream. What I want you to do is I want you to go through the book, read through all the investment strategies, and whichever one speaks to you the most, you say, this is where I want to start. It could be I want to build a high rise in the middle of downtown Atlanta. Like, don't limit yourself. Like, it could be, I want to go to Japan and build a theme park. It could be, I want to be the largest landowner in the state of Texas. It could be, I want to have a farm with solar windmills and solar power, and I want to live off the grid, and I want to rent space to people that want to live off the grid. Like, whatever your investment strategy is, it could be anything. And you'll get ideas as you're reading through the chapters. Okay, so all of those, land development was the last active investment strategy. That is where you would take a piece of land that's currently, it could be a different use like agricultural, it could be residential, it could be commercial use, and you take that and you become the painter, that you paint the vision for that land. You look at that land and you say, what is the original intent for this land? What is the highest and best use of this land? And then you either go forth and you create the properties that will go on that land, or the features that will go on that land, or you partner with companies to develop the land with you. And I've been a part of large land development transactions, and it's just like being an artist. Whatever you want that land to become, that land can become. I went to a place called Prayer Mountain last night, and it's in Duncanville, Texas. And as I was going up the mountain, I was saying, who thought of this? Who just decided that I'm going to take this big, beautiful area and I'm going to put walking trails, and I'm going to put areas where people can pray, and I'm going to put a sunset observation deck, and I'm going to put a garden over here, and oh, I'm going to put a basketball court over here because kids will want to play basketball. Oh, and over here I'm going to put benches. Like, all of that is land development, because you take a piece of land and you say, this is what you are. This is what you're going to do. You're going to be a place of peace for people, or you're going to be a recreational park for people. Oh no, you're going to give people a place to live. So you're taking the land and you're molding it and creating it into what its use is going to be, its function is going to be for humanity. And land development is one of the highest forms of creativity, in my opinion. It is where God allows us to step into his shoes and become like him, where we take this thing that he has given us and we recreate it into something that humanity gets to experience. So that's the active investment strategy. The next one, the next section of the book, and I'm trying to go quickly, so I got 20 more minutes, is moderate investment strategies. Moderate investment strategies. This means that you don't have to quit your full-time job, but you do have some active management in the investment. So it's not like, here's my money, let me know when I get my check back. But it's also not, I don't have to hold a hammer and I don't have to actually design anything, right? So it's somewhere in between those. Moderate investment strategies include a turnkey rental strategy, a wholesaling strategy, a RRR strategy, and a buy and hold strategy. So, and when I say buy and hold, I'm talking about land in that particular section of the book. So let's talk about turnkey rentals. A turnkey is where you want a rental property. You want that residual income, whether it is a retail strip, whether it is an apartment building, whether it is a single family home, a duplex. You say, I want to get that mailbox money, but I don't want to be a repairman. I don't want to design anything. I don't want to have to be in a construction project. I just want to buy it. And as soon as I buy it, it's already rented out. Actually, I'm going to buy it with people living in it. And as soon as I become the owner, I'm going to collect a check day one. That would be turnkey. Or you could buy, let's say you buy a house that has recently been built or renovated. All of the main structures are, they are functioning. A turnkey, you may have to do some minor things, like you might not like the paint color, you might not like the flooring, but it could be rented day one. It's in a state where it can generate income day one. That strategy is pretty cut and dry. If you can apply, if you can qualify for financing in any way, you can do a turnkey rental. They're easy, they're simple to acquire, and they're simple to start generating income quickly. Turnkeys. Many of you will say, I want to do this, but I don't have any money. Well, guess what? Somebody on this live has money. Or if three of y'all get together, you have enough money. I'm all about partnerships, which I'll talk about in the financing strategy, how to fund your deal, how to fund your creative ideas. But one of the best ways is just telling people your vision. And I'll go deeply into that in section 3. But the more you communicate what your vision is with a laser focus, if you just go around and tell 10 people, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it exactly like this, exactly at this timing, in this color, in this location. The clearer your vision, the more defined you are with what you intend to do, the more people will attract to you that will want to finance what you do. When you are all over the place and you're like, I could do an active strategy, then I could do a moderate strategy, then I could do a passive strategy, then I could do this, then I could do that. People don't want to fund confusion. But when you have someone like myself, I was going around meeting after meeting after meeting. I'm going to buy every property in South Dallas. I'm going to start with single family, then I'm going to buy multifamily, then I'm going to buy commercial. I'm going to buy every property in South Dallas. It's going to look like this. It's going to be in this zip code. It's going to be in this price range. It's going to have this many bedrooms. It's going to, like, I was so laser focused on this is my strategy. I began to attract people that wanted to invest in that strategy, but didn't want to do the work. So that's just a little tidbit that we'll talk about in the next few weeks. The next strategy is, anybody have questions? I see people on here, but I don't see any questions. If y'all are with me, like drop a heart or drop a wave or something. So the next strategy is wholesaling. Okay, people love, I don't know if they sell like wholesaling for beginners, but they do like ads or something. But anytime there's a young person that feels like they're about to get rich quick, they always reach out to me and they're like, I want to wholesale real estate. How do I get into wholesaling? Wholesaling, I have to be a wholesaler. I'm about to make $50,000 overnight as a wholesaler. And I'm just like, who told you that? Like, where did you hear that at? So wholesaling, yes, I work with wholesalers. Wholesalers are people that are middlemen between real estate, or middle women between real estate. For example, when you buy a pack of Skittles from Target, Target is the wholesaler. Target buys that. They're the retailer. They buy that from someone that made that might have been a wholesaler. So Target they didn't buy it directly from the manufacturer in most cases. They will buy that from someone that made it convenient for them to access that Skittle. So they might go through a distributor or someone that has all of the candies, and they'll say, we want 1,000 of these 2,000 of those, and they'll come and they'll bring them. So the Skittles might actually cost 25 cents a pack to make. Then Target will come along and they might buy those Skittles for 50 cents a pack. And then we come along and we pay $1.50 a pack, all for convenience. Well, that's what wholesalers do in real estate. Wholesalers will work with someone like myself that says, I want a house in this zip code at this price point, and I wanted to have this many square feet, and I wanted to, be on this street. The wholesaler's job is to go and track down properties that fit that demographic or that look and bring it back to me. And for that, they earn a fee. Now, wholesalers, hasn't everybody heard of wholesalers? Wholesalers, you haven't heard of wholesalers? Okay, wholesalers, they beat the block. They go out, they knock on doors, they put signs up. Y'all have heard of wholesalers. We buy ugly homes. We buy ugly houses, the billboards. Everywhere you drive on the corner, there's a street. Call this number and I'll buy your house. Those are wholesalers. They're not actually buying your house. They're getting your house under contract. And then they're going to take that contract and sell that contract to an investor for a higher price. That's what wholesaling is. So if you don't actually want to spend any of your own money and you have that hustle to get out there and put yard signs out and to knock on doors and to cold call people and to really just find all of the ugly houses and all of the distressed properties, and then you're going to take those and resell that contract to investors. That's what wholesaling is. It's a way to do real estate without money or without a license. But let me just say this, because wholesalers they're becoming extremely greedy. I'll just say that. I did one transaction and the wholesaler had marked the house up $70,000. $70,000. So the end buyer doesn't know the original price of the home or the property. All they know is that the wholesaler comes to them and says, hey, I got this house for sale. It's exactly what you're looking for. It's going to be $150,000. They don't know that the wholesaler has that under contract for $80,000. They don't know that because they don't know the original price until the day of close. So when they get to closing is when everything has to be disclosed legally. So when they go to sign on that contract, they say, wait a second, I'm paying $70,000 more for this house than the wholesaler got it for. So now you know you're overpaying and the price is then inflated. So let me just express myself a little bit about this. When we look at the inflation of housing in the DFW Metroplex and all over the United States, it is because of corporations and wholesalers. Whenever that original buyer, the original seller, homeowner, sold that home to that wholesaler, they thought they were getting a fast, easy transaction. That's the only reason they would ever do a deal with someone like We Buy Ugly Houses. They're going to say it's all cash. We close in 3 days, 10 days, 5 days, 7 days. You don't have to pay anything. So that homeowner is being given a pipe dream. They're in a rush. They're in a fire sale. They're distressed or they're ignorant. And that's why they're selling their grandmother's house that Big Mama worked for, doing whatever she had to do for 50 years to buy that house. And then as soon as Big Mama dies, they turn around and sell that house to a wholesaler or to a corporation. And then that wholesaler takes all the value of that house, the equity in that house, and sells it to me. So now, and I'm just using me as an example. So now I'm paying $70,000 of money to a wholesaler who only owned that home, didn't actually ever own the home, only had a contract on the home for 48 hours. So your Big Mama's 50 years of labor just was lost to a person that had enough intellect to swindle you out of your equity that was supposed to go to your kids and your grandkids and your great-grandkids. So that's why I'm saying wholesalers, if that's a strategy that you choose, you need to have integrity. You need to have integrity. A good wholesaling fee would be $5,000, not $50,000. Because then when I go to rent that house out or resell that house to the end buyer after it's fixed up, now I have to sell it for 70,000 more than what it's worth to make my money back. So now the price of the values of homes are so high that the people that really need them can't afford them, and the wholesalers' pockets have been lined in the process. Okay, now I'm done with that little speech. The next investment strategy is RRR. I think I'm going to stop here and we will pick back up at the next meeting. RRR is the next investment strategy, and that is we're going to reside, we're going to rent, then we're going to refinance. So this is a strategy that I believe anybody can do. Anybody can do. It should be a good entry point for you, right? You buy a home, you reside in it, which means you actually move into the house. Then after a period of time, you convert that home into a rental. So that means you could convert that home into Airbnb. You can convert that home into a regular rental where you move out and you buy your next home. So many people have done this. They become investors accidentally. So let me give you an example. They buy a home. They'll say they're unmarried, single, buy a home, smaller home, maybe whatever they could afford at the time. Then they get married and they're like, oh, I want a family. So I need a 3-bedroom. This is a 2-bedroom. Or I want a 4-bedroom with a backyard. This is a 2-bedroom. Or I want to move to this side of town near my spouse's job. And so because of that, inadvertently, they become an investor because instead of selling that home, they turn their first home into a rental property to generate some monthly income for their new family. I love that strategy because it allows you to sort of organically move into the investment process as you've learned the ownership process. It's easy to do. And guess what? Once you qualify for your first home loan, you can do it over and over and over and over again. So you can continuously buy a house, live in it, rent it out, then go back to the bank and say, oh, my first house is rented out. I'm gonna buy another house under a primary occupant loan, which has a lower interest rate, lower credit requirements, lower reserve requirements. They're the easiest loans to get if you're gonna occupy the home yourself. So then after, let's say 6 months, a year, whatever the lender's requirements are, oh, oops, I don't like this house, I'm moving again. So you get another loan, live in it, turn it into a rental. Oh, in 4 years, I have 4 rental properties. How did that happen? You know, like there's ways that you could do it. Another way for the RRR strategy is that you can purchase multifamily up to 4 units and you can live in one of those units. So immediately you have a rental property. So let's say you find a 4-plex and you're like, how could I ever afford $1 million 4-plex? Well, good thing is whenever they qualify you for that loan, they use the potential rent on the other 3 units to add to your income to help you qualify for that loan. So if you buy a currently occupied duplex or 4-plex, all you need to do is find out the rent amount on the other units. And you give that information to the bank and they will add that number into your income. So for example, I have a couple that bought a duplex. 1 unit was rented for, I want to say $1,800 a month. And they already owned a home. So as they moved out of their first home, they converted that into a rental and they bought a duplex. So they used the income for the home they were moving out of, which was about let's make up a number, $2,000 a month. And then they used the income from the other side of the duplex, which is $1,800. So now they've got almost $4,000 a month in additional monthly income that the lender is using to qualify them for that multifamily property. So now, whereas they're like, how could I afford 2 houses? Well, this is how you got $4,000 in additional income. That's an additional $50,000 in annual income. It's almost like you got an extra family member working to help pay for that investment property. So now essentially they are using the income from their first property and the duplex to pay for their living. So they are living rent free. Isn't this awesome, guys? These are the simple things that we can do if we change our mindset to become investors without having to be wealthy or even really needing any money at all. I remember, y'all, this is one of the best deals I've ever done. This was just a regular family looking for a home. But I said, nope, you want to be an investor, you're going to be able to become an investor right now. Well, they bought this duplex that was distressed. And they're like, oh my gosh, how could I ever downgrade from where I'm living in this nice house with this big yard to this duplex? I said, well, think about the finances that you're about to make and how you're going to get out of debt and how you're going to pay your kids' private school tuition, all by simply living in this place down the street from where you live. So it was an easy sell for them. Well, the house needed work and they didn't have any money to fix the property up. So because the property had been sitting on the market for maybe about, I don't know, 60, 90 days, I had a repairman come out and give them a bid for the work. It needed new appliances. It needed, I think like the AC needed work. It just needed like some repairs. And the inspection report said what the repairs were. So I went back to the seller and had the seller give them a $30,000 credit at closing to make repairs. And do you know that the seller agreed to it? Because the seller simply took that money out of their equity. Let's say that seller had owned that property for 25 years. They might have bought that property for $50,000. And now they're standing to get a check for $250,000 or $500,000 cash at closing. So it's nothing for them to take 30,000 of it and credit it back to the buyer. Well, I went to the lender and the lender said, I've never heard of anybody doing that. I said, yeah, because you've never worked with me before. Go and ask if it's possible. And the lender allowed this to happen. So the seller took $30,000 and credited it back to the buyer. So at closing, the buyer actually got a $30,000 check to fix the property up. So now they had two properties. They're living rent free. I just spoke with them. It's been about 2 years. She said, we've just got so much money coming in. We just feel bad about raising the rents on our tenants. I said, what are you doing with the money? She said, we have paid off our debts. We now have our savings account where we want it to be. And we're ready to buy an apartment building. And this is in about, I want to say 2 years. It may have been a little bit more. Can you imagine having two properties in an apartment building in 2 years' time and all you did was live there? So that's the RRR strategy. It's 1 o'clock. I want to keep to my time commitment. So as we close, I will go through the remainder of the investment strategies not next week, because I'll be at the Reformers Conference next week. Reformers Conference, if you want to hear me speak and teach about real estate, you can come to my session. It'll be Friday around 1:30 p.m. at Trinity Church in Cedar Hill. I'll be doing another session about real estate ownership. So please come, invite people to come out. I'll also be speaking about how we can reform society through real estate. And I hope that you all will come out and hear me speak and inspire people, encourage people with this wisdom that I have learned. And my goal is that you all will also have the results that I've had, because as you take this wisdom, it's going to work no matter who uses it. If you're using the principles that I'm teaching you, it does work. So does anybody have any questions before I go?
I don't. Wow, I'm just in awe. Well, you know what? There is one question I wanted to know. When you said about owning the apartment complex, is that something that's difficult to do, or is that something that you recommend that you do after you may have accumulated other properties?
Owning an apartment building is, with more than 4 units, might be considered more difficult than owning an apartment building with less than 4 units, because apartments that are 1 to 4 units are considered single family, and they're governed differently and are financed differently. Apartments that are more than 5 units are considered commercial property and they're financed differently. However, I would not limit you by saying you need to start with a single family and move to commercial, because that's not how I'm trying to find a way to say this. Some people are bred to think bigger than others. Some people enter into the real estate industry saying, I will never touch a residential transaction. I'm a commercial agent. I'm a commercial broker. I'm a commercial developer. They see residential as lower class, lower opportunities, lower wealth opportunities, right? So I'm not going to tell you, you need to start here and go there. It's just all about what you want. And then if you want an apartment building, then you pursue that first. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be positioned to do that immediately, but I don't want to deter you by saying, you know, do a residential transaction and, you know, kind of get started that way. No, just whatever you want to do is possible, and you'll learn, you know, how to go about doing it, and I can work with you to get a strategy to do it.
Okay. I think that was pretty much my only question, because I know the time is 1 o'clock. So I'll kind of save the other questions for not next week, but the week after that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. Reformers Conference, you can come out. I would love to invite you or anyone else that you know to come out to that. And I will be going live again. What's 2 weeks from today? Let me see. Let me look that up so I can tell you.
Is that the 22nd?
Yeah, on the 22nd. I'll be going live again at noon Central Time on the 22nd to pick back up on the investment strategy section of We Must Own.
Okay. I really appreciate you, Farrah. I really do. I thank you so much.
Yes, I thank you too. You have a blessed day. You too, Katie.
You too. Bye, Katie.
Bye.
Bye.